The second video in this series of 8 on how to make more money as a personal trainer in a group fitness facility is going to introduce to you the power of assessment. How valuable it is to be able to spot things for people and show them what's going on so that you can describe the opportunity for you to fix their problem. This is the longest video in the sequence of 8. There's a lot of conversation back and forth between me and the people I was demonstrating for on site. If you would rather get this information in a quicker, more straight to the point fashion, we'll make sure that there's an opportunity for you somewhere here to click and go straight over to our 11-minute and change movement screen video that's also included in this playlist.
Can I be a pain in the ass for 1 second?
I would love that.
So you mentioned poor Sally snatching in the corner hiding from me.
Yes.
And then you mentioned this guy deadlifting all the class looking like shit.
Uh-huh.
That never would have happened. Like Sally wouldn't have been able to hide in the corner and that guy wouldn't have been able to deadlift. We would have had plates under it, we would have given a kettlebell, like something else would have happened. So is there a disconnect here where like
No.
we're assuming that like things are getting under, like getting shushed under the rug?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
What you're saying is that you control the room well enough to see how that person needs to modify and how this person needs to modify and what needs to change here and what needs to change there. What I'm saying is that's good. That's really good. What's better is understanding exactly why they need to make that modification and how you're going to progress them individually so they don't need to make that anymore and that you can't possibly spend enough time doing that for them and control the rest of the class at the same time.
That speaks to like we were talking the other day about what's, you know.
Yeah.
It's a good question though. Does that answer it for you? Okay. All right. So I'm going to write up the assessments on the board and then we're going to go through each of them. There's tissue. Okay, we'll just start with this one. So this test is called standing lumbo-pelvic flexion. It's really simple. I want you guys to all take off your shoes, please.
Sorry.
What's that? Yeah. All right, so it's a simple test. What I want you guys to do is we'll go around the room. We'll start to think about like if this happens, if someone's limited on this test, what would we modify and why? Right, so this test is really simple. You're going to ask a client to do this. Stand with your knees extended and reach down as far as you comfortably can. Go. Just reach straight down. Perfect. Come on back up. Good. So what we want to do next is we want to start asking them, where do you feel it? So 2 things. This test, number 1, reach down as far as you comfortably can with your knees extended. Where do you feel it? We don't say what we want them to feel. We don't ask, where does it hurt? You use the words I used because anything else, and they will try to figure out how to game the system. Okay? Legs straight, reach down as far as you comfortably can. I'll ask you guys where you feel it. Go ahead down. So, anybody who feels it right now in their calves, stand up. Anybody who feels it right now in their low back, stand up. Anybody who feels it right now in their hips, stand up. Anybody who feels it right now in their hamstrings only, stand up. Okay, so if you guys all had the same anatomy, we all agree you all have the same anatomy, right? Besides some parts. Muscles, different?
The muscles are different.
They're different?
Yeah.
What's different?
I'm joking.
Oh, okay.
I'm just talking about the dick or lack thereof.
Oh yeah, that's,
Female.
yeah, that's different. So the point is you should all feel the same thing if your bodies all function the same way. I would argue that the only people in this room who should be pulling off the ground heavy without anything to think about right now is him. Right now, it doesn't mean you can't, but it means that if you're feeling it in your calves, anyone know what muscle runs down past the hips and down past the calves? Starts in the hip, runs down past the calf. Anybody? So you reach down to the ground, right? If you're feeling it in your calf, what muscle are you feeling stretching? Yeah, I'm giving you a little bit of a clue. Right, because think about it. If I stand like this and I reach down, do my knees extend anymore? Do my ankles do anything? So anything I'm feeling in my calf can't have anything to do with anything below my knee, right? You follow? So what joint is moving? My hip, my low back. So the muscle, whatever I'm feeling in my calf, has to cross my hip or my low back.
You said it crosses your calf.
because I feel it in my calf. Do you follow me? Did I lose you?
I do. I'm just wondering what that muscle is.
Right.
I'm waiting for you to tell me what it is.
Does anyone have an idea? There is no muscle that crosses the hip that goes all the way down there. So what might they be feeling? No? You're there. Right. So there's no muscle.
Nerves.
Yes. So, right. So if someone reaches down to the ground in class, but if you have someone reach down to the ground and they're like, yeah, I feel it down over here.
I'm like, this guy's a fucking idiot. There's no fucking
It's his first day. Right? So if they feel it in their calf when they go down like that, they're feeling nerve tension. Do you think somebody who's feeling nerve tension when they do something as simple as touching the floor should be pulling a heavy weight off the ground without you thinking about it or watching them a little bit more carefully? Not rhetorical. Okay. Right? So again, the emotional component, we don't tell Jimmy, hey, since you're feeling it in your calf or in your low back, I don't want you to reach down to the ground. But we want to be aware that, hey, if you're feeling this in your calf before class even starts, and you start to feel anything in your lower back, or you start to feel stuff that will get a little bit more intense in your calf, we're going to shut that down and lift the weight up a little bit higher onto a plate. Follow? Because the sciatic nerve is under a lot of tension that we don't want it to be under. Any questions about that? Simple test, you guys can do that in the beginning of class with everybody at the same time. Hey, we're deadlifting today. It's not Diane, but I want everyone to reach down to the ground and stand up when I tell you. If you feel it in your calf, you can show them first your calf is down over here. If you feel it in your calf, stand up. They stand up, you watch them. Any back pain lately? Yes. Okay. We're going to set up your deadlift a little bit differently than you're used to today. And you go around the room and you figure it out like that. Now you're not waiting for them to be doing deadlifts like this to say, hey, let's get some bumper plates under there. You're getting ahead of the game, explaining to them why, and now they have the same stimulus in a workout that they're supposed to have instead of the pain they get when they leave. Follow? Okay, that was the first test, standing level pelvic flexion. So other than deadlifts, what movements might you want to limit if somebody has an issue reaching down to the ground like that? Snatching, clean, rowing, D-ball cleans, all of those. Perfect. Huh?
Maybe box jumps.
Maybe. When you get, right. When you get into that, you start to look at things like even running potentially, right? Especially if they're an overstrider landing on their heel when they run. So this is something, it's a very valuable test for you guys to do. It's quick, it's easy. Everyone in the class can do it at the same time. And now you can be on the lookout. Okay, Kyle told me he felt that in his calf pretty intensely, or he felt it in his lower back. Neither of those are where you're supposed to feel it. If that intensifies during the workout, I want you to let me know. We're going to modify your movement a little bit. Cool? Easy. Any questions about that? Next movement.
Is there a correlation to where they felt it and where you modify? So, for example, calf might be more of raising the bumper plates versus lumbar might be, I don't know what.
Yes, it's a good question. So if they feel it in their calf, we might want to lift the bar off the ground a little bit so they're not going through the same range of motion. If they feel it in their lower back, oftentimes it's going to be a motor control issue, and they're not able to create a proper brace. So you watch that person before they deadlift, and they're like, and they're really well braced up over here, and then this just goes like this, right? So it's something to watch for sure. Next test is going to be right here. Supine hip flexion. Okay, so this is going to be done with a partner. I'll borrow Jimmy. Actually, you just worked out. You didn't shower. I'll borrow Tyler.
Tyler's pants are now dry. So
Right. Lay on your back. So this is a test that you guys will want to do more one-off. With every new member, I recommend you guys do this. But one-off, when you grab somebody, if you see them curling over a lot, you see their butt start to tuck under when they're doing squats, they have difficulty, they tell you they're getting some pain, they lean forward, whatever the case might be, they don't get to depth, right? Hand underneath their lower back, bring their knee towards their chest. And what we're looking for is, when does their back flatten down into your hand? So, as soon as Tyler's back starts to flatten down into my hand, right about there, that's really the end of Tyler's hip range of motion. If I go further, you start to feel it in the front of your hip? You're smiling. Is that a yes or a no?
No.
Okay.
I don't know why.
It's okay. It's because your whole butt's lifting off the ground, right? But so, as I push this down, his back is just rounding, 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 rounding. That tells me he's out of range of motion for his hip. So I might come out here and see if he's better out over here. And he is. To me, that means Tyler's left leg should be out here when he squats. I'll come around and do the same thing on the right side. We want to see what his range of motion is. If I get to here, and that's as far as he goes and his back starts to flatten down, what movements might be difficult for Tyler? Anything squatting, right? So this is when you tell somebody, squat deeper, squat deeper, squat deeper. You got to get lower, you got to get lower. Then they're like, I'm trying. You pull out a med ball, you put it on the ground. They're like, okay. And they still can't get to it. Or they get to it, but now they look like a dog taking a shit. That's why. They've run out of range of motion for their hip, and it's not a good movement for them. You guys have any questions about that?
So in that scenario, it's a box.
What's that?
In that scenario, it's a higher box.
Yeah.
Instead of going any lower until they. Okay.
Elevate the height, go to a single leg, go to a lunge, right? There's a lot of different ways to modify it. But I want you guys to do is split off, grab a partner, and test this with them. So you and Rob are partners. Tyler and Kyle are partners. And you're going to test both sides. You guys should be pros. Got it. So you're gonna want to go. There you go. And now just bring his knee to his chest.
Does it matter how he starts?
No.
Like is the anyone like starts off extended? Okay.
Nope. I mean, yes, but we're not going to be that fine.
Push down here.
Yep.
Why am I pushing down? I thought I was pushing up.
You just push him towards his
Yeah.
chest.
Right there.
What do you feel with that?
Right. His middle lower back. Hit me.
Okay.
I feel the hitting, dude.
Okay. And what do you feel in the front of your hip? Anything?
Nothing yet.
So now watch. Go.
I mean, a
go.
little bit tighter
Yes.
to start.
A little bit, right?
Yep.
So it's just a little bit. A lot of people can be like, no, I don't feel any pain with that. Got it. It's not about pain. It's that right now we're starting to jam the structures between the femur and the acetabulum.
Yeah. And I already know if you go out this way more, if you move your knee
Yep. Which I'm about to, but you're also on me.
and come out here,
Yep.
now try pushing down.
Hold on one sec.
Okay.
Right there.
Try going a little further.
More, but
Right? You feel the same thing?
Yeah, I felt a twinge in my
So there you
leg
go.
on the other side.
Right. So you actually probably better off squatting a little bit more narrow than you think you would. At least on this leg.
Yeah, okay.
And now let's try the other leg. You're going to be much better off with your lead leg on the ground.
alright, well, my back I can't.
Okay, then
I
don't.
can't lean
Then
over
don't.
him.
Then don't.
So how do I do that?
The way you were. However you need to get into position,
I
you
just
can.
can't reach out in front of me.
Okay. So try going a little bit further. Does it get it more aggressive on you? So she's feeling it really well because it's immediately after she says right there, you start to feel it. So that's really good. So what that says to us is he can squat to depth, right?
Right.
That's deep enough to be a full squat. But if you try crashing into the bottom for a clean or a snatch,
That's where I go wrong.
Now on this side, when I came out to the side, you were able to get further.
So this side.
Yeah.
so left leg goes out, right leg goes straight. Right? And now,
That's exactly my issue. So
what's your issue?
that this my right leg, tightness in my right hip, and the bottom position.
Perfect. So we'll
Your
talk about that.
recommendation would be to actually modify your foot positioning and your where you're pushing your knees out to accommodate that, as opposed to like.
Yes.
Interesting.
So let's switch. You evaluate her. How'd it go over here? How'd it go over here?
Good.
Did you get full range of motion though?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd it go for you two? Good.
I have a.
Right about here.
Yeah, and that's how I'm gonna finish. Yeah.
All right. So that's about the bottom. That's the bottom of her squat right there.
And now I'm feeling that push down. But see, you can go more. I felt her push down, but she went a little bit further than that.
So then when you're coaching somebody like that, you let her know she can go a little bit wider on her squat.
Okay.
Right? Good. All right. So guys, let's bring it in. Let's talk about that test real quick. Oh, the other side. What? What?
So we're building strength. All right, so the person who doesn't have full range of motion for a squat, one, you got to build strength, and two, they have to loosen up. They got to get loose. They got to do something.
You got to
Besides
gain.
strength.
You got to gain the range.
Right.
Then you got to gain the strength in the new range.
Right.
If you can. If it's bony stop, it's not going to happen. So two questions that we got that were very valuable. What do you do if someone's limited in their range of motion? They got to get that range and they got to get that strength, right? Yes, if they can. No, if it's bony and they're not going to. Right, we actually had someone fly out one time from, I don't know where he's from. I actually think he drove from Albany. And his hips were so bad, he felt the pinch when he would go to deadlift. We actually had to switch his hand position from a mixed grip to in front of his hips. That guy's not going to get full range of motion anything. His anatomy is not built in such a way that his hips are going to allow it to happen. So you have to be aware that, hey, unfortunately, unless if you get surgery, this is your range of motion. Now, when you're coaching that person in class, saying get deeper, you're not only you're not doing anything, you're making their life miserable, right? So that's what I mean by, not that you weren't modifying correctly already, but now you know exactly why you're modifying and when it's appropriate. The second question was, so forget which one of you, but what if one of the knees is good here and the other one is better out over here? Do we?
Yeah, so Rob was saying that one knee was better out in front, the other leg was out to the side a little bit better.
Yeah.
And that's what you should squat.
So 20% of people are going to have asymmetrical hip sockets, meaning that one goes straight forward, one goes out to the side, goes in, whatever the case might be. If you try to have someone whose hip socket goes out, squat straight ahead, you're taking all of their mechanical advantage away. This is where that person would want to squat. And that's okay. That looks weird to you, but it's exactly what their body would want to do. Do you follow? Perfect world, yeah, your feet both go straight ahead, your knees go straight down, and you come straight back up, and it's beautiful and everything is great. And everyone sees the Olympics, and they're like, that's what it needs to look like, but that's why those people are Olympians, because their bodies allow them to do that. Follow? Okay. Next test is really simple. We're all going to do this together. It's a knee to butt test. So all we're going to do, heel to butt test, excuse me. You're going to sit with your feet underneath you like this and just try to sit down on your heels. Big toes touch each other, try to sit down on your heels. Is anybody unable to do that? Okay, we're looking for two things. Number one, do both of your heels touch your butt? Number two, can you slide your hands underneath your ankles? Okay. Generally, this is going to be a test people are going to pass, and they're going to pass it pretty well, but it's not going to be comfortable. Don't worry if you're not comfortable right now. But if somebody can't do this, it becomes very obvious. Right? They don't want to do it. What do you think somebody who can't do it like this, they have knee pain when they do this, what do you need to limit for them? They get knee pain when they do this and they can't get the full range of motion. What would you be thinking about limiting for them?
Definitely pistols.
Okay, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Jumping lunges.
Yeah, anything that's going to be a dynamic opening and closing of the joint, full range of motion, you're going to want to limit. So squat cleans, squat snatches, because they're not going to be able to titrate the perfect range of motion to catch in the bottom, not to do damage on their knee. And their body will stop them, leaning their chest forward, shooting their arms back, and all of a sudden they look like they're doing a pass-through with a barbell and a snatch. Right? So for these people, power cleans, squat down. Power snatch, squat down. When you feel like you can't go any further, come back up. That's fine. That's your spot. Because now when they're on tension, when these muscles are tight, it's actually going to limit the range of motion even more. You follow that? You're compressing the joint. The other thing with this, these people often won't like running because one of the most common reasons why this occurs is meniscus damage. Meniscus damage in the knee or an inflammatory process in one of the tendons. So running, all that pounding and that eccentric load is going to be very symptom driving for someone with like that. Cool? What do you mean?
Like, is that something that's part of that?
So shin splints is going to be more for the person who can get their heels to their butt, but they're like, you can put a baseball bat underneath their heel, underneath the front of their ankle. That's a person who, when they go to run, they're like, and you're like, that guy looks weird when he runs, right? Or they do a clean and they go, and you say, you got to jump. You got to jump for that clean. They're like, okay. They're like, no, like, jump like you were going to try and dunk a basketball. And they're like, huh? Like, that's how I jump. Because they're not getting this. They don't have this. Do you follow? So that if they're running like this, I'm exaggerating, of course, these muscles are going to be on all the time. That's going to drive symptoms for them for sure. Follow? So it's good to know, because now the person who thinks they hurt themselves at the CrossFit gym doing a clean, it's like, no. You hurt yourself doing a clean because you didn't respect the range of motion that you have and you tried to go further than you actually own. And it's your job as coaches to know where do they actually own. Follow? Any questions about heel to butt? Okay. Prone, heel to butt. So this test is exactly like the last one we did, except you're going to lay on your belly. So Tyler, lay on your belly for me, please. And you're going to come up, and you're going to grab the client's ankle. Now remember, if they already failed the knee test, there's really not much of a need to do this. They're gonna struggle with this too, and it's gonna be painful for them. You don't want to wrench on their ankle, or on their knee, excuse me. So if they're good on that one, we're looking at their low back, kind of the seam that crosses here, bringing their heel to their butt, and we're looking to see, does the back extend more than it was when it started? Do the hips run from one side to the other? So if you guys watch Tyler, I'm gonna block his knee so his knee can't come flying out. I bring his heel to his butt. What happens? Hips go that way, right? Okay, they extend and they rotate to the opposite side. Do the same thing on this side, let's see what happens. Same thing, it's actually a little bit more pronounced on this side, right? So again, he can do everything in the gym because he's got the full range of motion, but it hurts his back every time we do it. I imagine it would hurt yours too. So the thing about this test is it's what we call our extension intolerance test. This is people who fail this test, what's happening, I won't make you guys quiz on it, is the only muscle that crosses the knee and the hip that can move the back like that is called your rectus femoris muscle. Sartorius is long, there's a lot of slack left in it, so it won't drive this much change. But your rectus femoris muscle starts on your ASIS and it runs down to the bottom of your kneecap. When we flex the knee in a prone position, we put tension on it. If it doesn't lengthen properly, it's going to pull the hip with it, forcing extension. So they'll run like this, and you guys have seen Tyler run, right? Run an extension because their hips have to be forward, running out in front like this. For these kinds of people, box jump workouts are going to be difficult. Double unders might be difficult. Kipping on a bar might actually drive some pain if they have an aggressive enough forward and backwards kip, especially if they're really, really good technique-wise. Their feet stay together and their legs stay fairly straight. This is going to drive symptoms.
Here's the problem I have, like, those are all my best movements.
Yeah,
You know?
I get it.
But like,
That's-
do that, it's like it crushes my back.
So, perfect situation, right? I'm walking up to Tyler, he's a client in my gym, and I want to be like, hey, this drives you pain, we got to fix this. And he's like, dude, all those things that you want to fix on me are already what I'm really good at. Cool, that's fine. Do you experience back pain from time to time in the gym?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want that to go away?
Yes.
Okay, then forget about how good you are at pull-ups. Let's solve this problem. You'll still be good at pull-ups when we're done, but you won't have back pain when you run.
Yeah.
Right? That's the point. Cool?
Jimmy's got a question.
Yes, Jimmy. Go ahead.
So when that's happening, is that the facets? It's like the facets touching each other?
So what he's talking about is in your spine, we have these bones called facets. I'm simplifying, right? But so if this spine extends, this is the back, this is the front. If this spine extends back, this bone and this bone could potentially rub up against each other, and that's where pain could be driven from. Yes, potentially, but that's going to be really, really severe cases in people. Okay. It's more the structures between these that become symptomatic.
Discs start falling out of my spine.
Potentially, but more than this is actually more common than disc injuries with extension, or people who have stenosis, spinal stenosis. What stenosis is essentially that the canal where the spinal cord lives has thinned. Those people will like flexion because it actually makes the canal a little bit larger. Extension makes the canal smaller and it will drive pain for them. Right, so those people running uphill is great. Running on flat ground is a disaster. Understand this? Is that good for you? Okay. Easy way to clean this up for people, for you guys, building stiffness through here, it will force relaxation through here. It's just relative stiffness. His quads are much stronger than his midline, that's all. So he can't control one while the other is moving. Next movement we're going to do is ankles. And you guys have an Instagram account? Yeah. So you've seen people snatch or squat and their chest comes forward and they're like, I don't know what's wrong, can somebody help me? Everybody in the world chimes in, they're like, oh, it's your ankles, bro. Maybe, right? But if we're gonna look and see when ankles are actually an issue. We've had coaches at CrossFit South Brooklyn, they have a chiropractor in there who does that. Like he watches people squat and he's like, don't air that. He watches people squat and he's like, oh, it's your ankles. We got to work on your ankles. The coaches there have come to us and been like, hey, just so you know, I've seen people doing this. I've gone up and measured their ankle. It's been totally full range of motion. They're like, why'd you do that? I'm like, oh, just curious. Go back to rolling your ankle, right? It's like, we want you guys to be able to not waste any time while you're doing this stuff. So what we'll do is we'll grab an iPhone, because they're about 5 inches, and we'll come over to a pull-up break. Yeah. Look, does it look familiar? All right. So, real simple test here. What I recommend you guys do is one day you do this as a gym, because you don't have to use your iPhones then. What you can do is get masking tape, which is about 1 inch thick, and you'll set it up so the front side of the masking tape is 4.5 inches from the upright, which means the back side will be 5.5 inches from the upright. You can do it on the wall as well if you want. But the upright is easier, you have a target. Now what happens is when you walk into class, ladies, put your toes on the front side of the tape, men, put your toes on the back side of the tape. Every class now measures their ankles before class starts, just to see where they're at. Just collecting data, right? All you're gonna do, put your big toe on the line like this, and then you're gonna try to get your knee to the upright without your heel coming off the ground. You'll notice mine comes off the ground, right? And I've worked on this a lot. It used to be like 2 inches for me, and now it's like 4 and change. But when you try this, what you'll see is that people who catch a snatch, for example, with poor ankle range of motion, might be a little bit forward and having to bring their shoulders back. They might catch their cleans forward. They might just squat forward. Their wall balls might be forward. And what happens is, the way you guys can become even more valuable to somebody than potentially their doctor is, hey, I have shoulder pain whenever I do snatches. They go to the doctor. What's the doctor going to say to them?
Stop snatching.
Stop snatching. But why? And let's assume stop snatching. Then okay, you're not going to snatch. I'm sending you to physical therapy for what? Shoulder. Okay. We're going to get to the shoulders in a minute. But what if their shoulder range of motion is full, but their ankle range of motion is so limited that when they get to the bottom of a snatch, they have to be here, so their shoulders are excessively wrenched on? Is the problem their shoulder that they're going to get worked on?
Well, maybe now, but
Right.
it wasn't in the first place.
Exactly. So they're going to come back to the gym, healed, rehabilitated, I'm good to go. They snatch again. It's like, damn it, it's back. Now they go to the physical therapist, and maybe CrossFit really isn't for you, and they're gone. All you got to do is change the way their ankles move, or modify the movement to address the way their ankles move. Follow? So grab an iPhone or something that's 5 inches wide. Should have brought something like that. That's my bad.
I have a,
Huh?
that's mine. I have a tape measure in my bag.
All right, so let's just do this right here. We'll just do one example, and you guys can all try it on your own after. Just want to review it. Let's bring you up.
Yeah, mine are different.
Huh?
My right and left are different.
Okay. So for the record, guys, the reason why we set this up in front of an upright is some people will just dive their knee all the way in and cheat to get there. When someone knows that you're giving them a test, they're going to try to pass the test, no matter what they got to do it. So go ahead and try to bring your knee to the upright. All right, and that's not bad. If it was 4 inches, it might actually be okay to go here. 4.5 is the ladies' length, 5.5 is the men's, and we're testing you on a men's length. So let's go to the left side. Way shorter, right?
Yeah, and I've been working this a lot.
Okay, but so where do you feel the limitation?
In the front through here and in the back right here.
And what have you been doing to work on it?
The banded dorsiflexion with the weight.
Okay, what do you mean with the weight?
With a weight on my leg, so I have the med ball or a kettlebell on my
And is
thigh.
Ray writing that for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how do you think we chose to do that? Because I imagine a lot of people who have limited ankle range of motion will see Katie doing that and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to do what Katie did. And she's going to get results, and they're not. Why? Right, different cause for the limitation, right? So the reason why we would give Katie something like a banded distraction with a weight on top through a range of motion is because if you're feeling this in the front of your ankle, it means that we're dealing with either a bony stop or a ligamentous stop, most likely. If you're feeling it in the back predominantly through the calf and the Achilles, that tells us that we're dealing with a tendinous stop, a musculotendinous issue. The way we would correct those two problems as coaches, totally opposite. One of them requires sustained range of motion and holding it. The other one requires eccentric contractions for rep after rep after rep. If we give you the wrong one, you get no results. You guys follow that? So once again, you have members who come here who probably walk into the gym every day and do this kind of stuff. You can now take them, measure the way their ankle moves, and say, this is limited, but it's for this reason. I think that intervention is going to be worthless for you. Let's do this one instead and see what happens. You guys get that? Your value goes up to the member.
So to your earlier point, the reason why Ray has me doing the one he has me doing is because that band is pulling that part and distracting it a little bit and helping that create more space in there? Okay.
So what our coach has Katie doing is gapping the joint and then holding the end range. That's how we actually lengthen ligaments. It's how we create joint space. And then I imagine he has you doing things to reinforce that range of motion immediately afterwards, or no?
Yeah, like the squats.
Right.
Press outs.
Yeah, so immediately following the new range of motion, we build proprioception with a movement that incorporates the new range of motion. Then she'll go back to this, and then she'll go back to the reinforcement, then back to this, then back to the reinforcement. Follow? Any questions about this test? We're breezing through it because I can give you guys access to all of this stuff online, real easy, and I don't want to spend most of the time going through the movement assessment today. Cool? All right. What would you modify if someone has really badly limited ankle range of motion?
Squatting stuff.
Squatting, well? Okay. What else?
Sometimes like push jerks or shoulder overhead stuff.
Jerks, shoulder overhead stuff potentially, Olympic lifting, maybe running, maybe double unders. Right? It's all going to be dependent. Rowing. This is a great thing to know for somebody who's rowing, because oftentimes these people will have knee or low back pain. What's the immediate scale typically for someone who has knee or low back pain when there's a running workout?
Get on the rower.
Get on the rower. So what's going to happen is they get on the rower, they go into the catch, and what happens? Just like in a squat, their heel lifts off the ground, and now they start to round their back. And now they're here, as opposed to being nice and firm through the movement. So you might want to actually put them on the rower, but then put your hand here and say, this is where you're going to go to. When you go back in for the catch, this is your range of motion. After that, your heel lifts off the pad. Follow? Okay. Any questions about lower body stuff? There's a lot more stuff that we could do for the lower body in a clinical setting, but as far as a gym setting goes, if you guys are doing those tests, you are so far ahead of everybody else, it's insane. And you're going to spot 99% of the problems in this gym before they happen.